Oh, shoot. I forgot to hit my bad. I forgot to hit the intro. Off to a horrible start. Setting things up. Here we go. Here's the intro. Hello and welcome back to another episode of the On the Sideline podcast with Jackson and Kyle. And I'm joined here by the man who would never forget to hit the intro if he was hosting this podcast. Kyle, how are you doing?
I'm good. Just like the Pittsburgh Steelers, we're in our peak playoff performance for the season right now. So
is that a self-deprecating shot at both of us?
Yes, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. So bringing us all down.
Well, I knew you'd be taking shots at the Steelers. That's not a surprise. Yes, the Cleveland Browns have won a playoff game. Let's just get right into it. No fluff at the beginning of the show. Kyle, they did it. 3 teams with big playoff droughts: the Buccaneers, the Bills, the Browns, all ending them. I think the Browns the most surprising. They got off to a 28-0 start. Pittsburgh looked like they might come back. Big Ben threw the ball 68 times in this one. I mean, you couldn't get one more pass in there. Come on, Ben. But yeah, it's just a wild game.
Yeah, I mean, it really was, and I just think the circumstances make this remarkable. I've been saying the Browns are a good team all year, and, but even I, as one of the biggest Browns defenders, was like, okay, they're missing all of these guys in the secondary. I didn't think they had a chance if Denzel Ward was out. I didn't think they had a chance with Kevin Stefanski being out. I didn't think they had a chance when they're one of the best offensive lines in the league was missing like 7 guys. And Baker's talking about how he introduced himself to his left guard before the game started. And it's just like all of this happens and they're still able not only to put 48 on the board, I guess 41 technically from the offense, but they won the game too. It's just insane that all of this happened and still worked in their favor. They barely practiced. The facility was closed. Everything it just makes a great story overall, and it was a great win for the Browns. I thought they came out and blitzed them. They looked really good. Just a great win. I'm going to flip this on you, though, because you are a Browns hater. So how did you feel about this game? What did you see?
I was blown away. I saw several things. I saw I don't think I'm not as high on the Browns as you were, obviously, but I think they had their faults, and their faults were not really. I think they were still prevalent in this game to some degree. But what I saw was the best defensive line in the league getting pushed around by the best offensive line in the league. And despite the fact that they missed some guys, Jack Conklin going down, I thought that was going to be a huge blow, but they stepped up. And I thought that that was the key shock for me, is this was a team that could not get much time for Baker. They could not get much gaps to run through, and they were able to do that. And on the flip side, Nick Chubb was able to do stuff even without room. He was incredible in this game. He was good in the passing game. I thought that to me, that's the story of the game, was the Steelers' biggest strength all season was not much of a strength. And, maybe I'm sure Steelers fans are going to say, well, no Bud Dupree, that's a factor. But at the end of the day, injuries happen to everyone. There's more injuries on Cleveland than there is on Pittsburgh, I think. And they were able to get the win. To me, that's the first big point.
Yeah, I thought, along with the defensive line, like you said, the Browns stars definitely showed out in this game more than the Steelers stars. You looked at Hunt having those big touchdowns, Nick Chubb getting that touchdown late in the game that they really needed to come up big. Jarvis Landry seemed like he was open the entire second half over the middle of the field. And it just seemed like everything the Browns wanted to do sort of worked, and it's just like they just hit on everything. They just game planned really well for this Steelers team, and I thought they were attacking the middle of the field and the linebackers really effectively in the passing game. I just thought, yeah, they did a great job overall. And on the other side, I didn't think the Steelers really came out with a great game plan. I know, you start down 7-0 after the first play of the game with the fumble, But then it's like they had multiple possessions where they ran the ball 3 times in a row, and this was a team that couldn't run the ball all season. And not to mention they couldn't run the ball all season. The Browns are missing their number 1 and number 2 cornerbacks, and we just watched Mason Rudolph torch Robert Jackson. Just absolutely torch him. And they were running the ball early in this game like it was no big deal. Just I didn't like the game plan going out, and I love the game plan going out for Cleveland being aggressive in this one.
I think it's fair to criticize Pittsburgh's game plan. I think it's more fair to criticize Ben Roethlisberger. This game plan had its flaws, but he was awful, especially in the first quarter. He kept making these throws that you just can't miss in that direction. He had obviously 4 interceptions, 3 of them in the first quarter. And that was really what it was. I thought that after the first quarter, this was a much more even battle. And I thought, I think, Pittsburgh outscored Cleveland by a good margin in the second half, but it was just too late because they completely went out there. And I thought that it was both. It was Pittsburgh made mistakes, and also Cleveland did a great job of capitalizing on the mistakes. And if you don't have a great defense, that's what you have to do. You have to be opportunistic, and they were very opportunistic in this one.
Yeah, no, they were. They made a lot of big plays early in that first half. And, they didn't play well in the second half. They gave up a ton of big plays. But at that point, it didn't matter. Like you said, this was the most fraudulent 500-yard game I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Roethlisberger was not good in this one. And people are going to look back on maybe say this was better than what people thought. He was just atrocious. He was making bad decisions, bad throws. Even that 4th pick was, the linebacker sitting right on that route.
It was insane.
So, yeah, it's just not a very good performance for him. And yeah, I mean, after all of this, is it Cleveland and Baker Mayfield's going to run him out of town? That's crazy.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And this is that's the thing about Cleveland is this is the ultimate, everyone keeps talking about they're the little brother. Well, the little brother just, I don't know, took a job opportunity from the big brother or something. This was a turning of the tides. And I said last week, one of the things I said in the preview show was it almost feels like Cleveland wants this matchup. They want the opportunity to beat Pittsburgh, but then everyone got hurt and they were missing, their head coach. And it's like, how are they supposed to do it? Well, they found a way to win. And yes, a lot of it was Pittsburgh mistakes, but I think they capitalized on them well. I also thought that the issues I have with Cleveland, I still do kind of have, but at the end of the day, sometimes we don't pay enough attention to what they do great. And their offense was great. We haven't even talked about Baker Mayfield. Baker Mayfield was great in this one. I mean, he didn't have to do as much, but what he had to do, he did perfectly, which is really difficult to do.
Yeah, I mean, I just, he had a little bit of a lull there in the second half that it kind of fell asleep on him a little bit. He made some bad decisions there, almost threw a pick even that would have, really put momentum in the Steelers' favor. But at the same time, anytime Cleveland needed a big play, a big drive, he was there to supply it. I guess I'm going to get into it now. I'm going to mention this a couple times, I guess. Another game coming up here, I'll talk about it. Mike Tomlin gift wraps them a punt. He punts the ball on 4th and 1. And for whatever reason, he did this to essentially punt the ball. They get the touchback off of it rather than downing it at the 1. So all of a sudden, it turns into a net 25-yard punt because they get the ball at the 25. They immediately go 75 yards in 6 plays. And Baker just starts dealing it. He made multiple good throws and then hits Nick Chubb for the screen pass in the end zone. He did that, and then at the end of the first half, they needed a drive after the Steelers scored, and it looked like the Steelers had a chance to get the ball back. He has a 3rd down run where he scrambles and lays his body on the line for the first down. This is why Baker Mayfield stands love Baker Mayfield, because he does these things that are, he understands the game and he understands how to win games, and he's going to try and do everything he can. He may not be the most talented guy ever, but he's going to lay his body on the line to win a football game. So credit to Baker Mayfield on this one.
Yeah, no, that was that touchdown at the end of the half was huge because it put him up an extra, that really did help make a difference. The punt is inexcusable. I saw that. I like there's a Twitter account that's the 4th down bot where it tells you if you should or shouldn't go for it. I don't know how it works. I don't know how accurate it is, but according to that bot, not only was it easily the right decision to go for it on 4th and 1, it was the right decision to go for it after they took the delay of game and it was 4th and 6. It was still the correct decision to go for it then. It was just such a bizarre call. And Tomlin had a couple of those. He also didn't go for 2. When they were down, I believe they're down 13, so they could have made it an 11-point game. So go for 2 again, kick a field goal that can tie the game. Just some weird game management decisions. I do think that Tomlin might be getting a bit too much blame, just because I thought the players themselves came out completely flat. but at the end of the day, he isn't without fault as well.
Yeah, I mean, he can't make he can't make some of these guys play better. You know,
Hmm.
every one of these guys that put up big numbers today didn't have good games. They put up big numbers when the game was out of reach, and they had like 30 successive plays. It seemed like at times, like Cleveland's defense was completely gassed. I was watching the play count for the majority of the like end of first half, beginning of the second half, because at one point it was like 41-19 in Steelers' favor, and then they had another like 30-point advantage or 30-play advantage. And Cleveland's defense was completely gashed, and that's like finally when Juju Smith-Schuster started showing up. He had like 3 catches by the time the first half ended, and it ended with 13. And it's just like he can't make these guys play better. But at the same time, you look at Mike Tomlin in his last 2 playoff games lost to Doug Marrone and a team without its head coach.
Right. No, yeah. I mean, and the comparisons between this one and that Jacksonville game are really, there's a lot of them where they start off incredibly flat. They're able to come back to some degree and make it this high scoring game, but they weren't able to cap it off. And the reason they went so down by so much was a lot of it was their own doing. And yeah, I don't know. I see Eli Mullen in the chat, who's a resident Steelers fan. Definitely condolences for Eli after this one. Says Tomlin needs to be fired. There are plenty of Steelers fans who are feeling that right now, and it's crazy to think about with all the regular season success he had. But yeah, I mean, it's a conversation they're going to have. I don't think they should fire him, but he's definitely not without fault either.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's about 10 guys though at fault right now. It's not
Yeah.
just Mike Tomlin's fault. It's not just Ben Roethlisberger's fault. It's about 10 guys on this team. They shouldn't have lost this game. If they play, they shouldn't have lost this game. They got off to an awful start. They made dumb mistakes and they played terrible football. If you look at talent wise of the rosters and Cleveland going through everything that it went through, they shouldn't have lost this game, but they looked terrible and got completely outplayed by a team that shouldn't have outplayed them. So you put the blame on that on just about everybody in the staff in the roster.
Yeah, no, I think it's fair to blame a lot of people. I absolutely agree. Yeah, but again, on the flip side, let's talk about Cleveland a little bit more. Just for the one more guy I want to give some love to, Jarvis Landry. Unbelievable. I mean, there was one play. Pittsburgh had some weird coverages. They were playing like zone coverage, and Landry was just going over the middle and turning it into a one-on-one matchup with a linebacker. And it's like, okay, he's going to win that. But still, that's even without a head coach, they still won the game plan. Jarvis Landry was incredible. I feel like the better team won, despite the fact that I thought that the Cleveland certainly got lucky in the first quarter. I still feel like the better team won.
No, I mean, they were the better team. They were the better team tonight.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it was the better roster. I just think tonight it was the better team, and they played like the better team. They had 12 catches combined. I thought Landry and Hooper might have had like 35 catches. It just seemed like they were always open. Like those two were, I don't know what the linebackers for Pittsburgh were doing, but they weren't covering the middle of the field, that's for sure. Because you could drive a semi-truck through there. It was incredible how many guys got open in the middle of the field just on simple short passing routes. And whoever was marked up on Landry in the middle of the field, it's just like a double move beat him every time. Landry was really good in that second half. And, they needed key first downs to keep the clock moving and keep their defense off the field to get some rest. And he was able to get those over and over again.
Right. And one more thing I think we should bring up, Cody Parkey, 5 for 5 on extra points, 2 for 2 on field goals. I mean, none of them were exactly high degree of difficulty kicks, but for a guy who people know him for the double doink, he was able to come through.
Yeah. I mean, everyone on Cleveland came through for as much as they needed to, basically. You could criticize the defense, but they also made a bunch of plays in the first half that put them in a position to win. They looked bad in the second half, and they'll have to adjust some things going against Kansas City. But hey, they were able to make turnovers when they really needed them and got the win. Everybody for Cleveland came through in this one. That's what made it so special, I feel like.
Yeah, and last thing I'll say, I don't think they have 0% chance to beat Kansas City. I think that this offense matched up really well against the Chiefs' defense. Now, their defense doesn't match very well against Kansas City's offense, but if they can get a few mistakes, there's greater than 0% chance, as I like to say.
It's definitely greater than zero, especially because they have two guys in Chubb and Hunt who can completely control this game.
Mhm.
The game plan is always, as always, is, you know, rush Patrick Mahomes with four, where they have guys like Myles Garrett who can get after him without having to blitz a whole ton, and also keep him off the field as much as possible. They have two running backs that can do that. They've had multiple games where they can limit possessions. They've shown they can limit possessions, whether it's a good or bad team. I just think they need it. I think the next week is gonna tell. I think that they were able to come galvanize for this game and bring a lot of energy. I just think the health concerns with the offensive line going down piece by piece and like the secondary going down piece by piece, I think that's gonna be really tough against Kansas City. But we'll see. I mean, they have pieces that can win this game.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. All right, let's move on now. Let's talk about the game that I nearly that was the big upset. I nearly called the big upset. So close. Colts hung in there. The Bills were able to win. And to talk about where I was coming into the game, pretty much everything I thought was going to happen happened. But really, Josh Allen and this Bills offense was able to do just enough in terms of just attacking the Colts. They did exactly what they had to do. And more than anything, they didn't turn the ball over. Allen nearly did at the end there with the fumble, but they recovered. And I think that was a big difference. Uh, Also, I see this, Trayvon Holloway. This game was crazy. I do think the Browns can win. Yes, I appreciate that, Trayvon. But yeah, what were your thoughts on this Colts-Bills game?
Yeah, the Colts just kind of, I don't want to say just fought, because I actually was kind of thinking like they kind of did everything they needed to win the game, except for actually win the game.
Mm-hmm.
I thought they outplayed Buffalo for a lot of stretches of this game. I thought the defense did a good job. I thought Phillip Rivers did a good job. I thought they at times ran the ball really well too. Like I said, I think they did a lot of things that they needed to win this game. They just, Buffalo was able to get some touchdowns there at the end of the game, and it went. I think they went like 3 or 4 possessions in the second half where they scored, and it was 2 touchdowns and 2 field goals basically, and that was pretty much the difference. They had those 4 possessions that they scored, and that pretty much just flipped it in Buffalo's favor, and they weren't able to come back.
Yeah, Frank Reich got a lot of criticism for a couple of decisions. We can talk about that, but I thought that the game plan that Indianapolis had was perfect. I thought it's exactly what they needed to do. They had, they got beat a couple times. There was a couple mistakes here and there, but as a whole, I thought it was very good. And at the end of the day, I think that this, it was funny because I was sort of thinking the Colts needed to keep Buffalo out of man as much as possible. But once Buffalo went into man, Indianapolis had an answer for that as well. Indianapolis showed that they were legit. Unfortunately, it wasn't enough for them, and this could end up being Phillip Rivers' last game for all we know.
Yeah, and up until the fourth quarter, I thought Rivers had, or the last like couple minutes, I thought Rivers had a really nice game going.
Mhm.
I didn't think Buffalo's defense played really well. I mean, that last touchdown they had, nobody was covering Jack Doyle, so
Mhm.
that's never a good sign. And I didn't think they were very good in coverage. And Naheem Hines was able to break off a couple big runs to keep the Colts drives alive and get them kind of back into the game. And I do want to give credit to Josh Allen for this one. Like I said, he made some really big throws when he needed to, and it wasn't just big throws; it was buying himself time because that Colts front four was coming for him, and they did a really good job of getting after him. He did a nice job of buying himself time. He almost tried to do it too much on that fumble, but overall, he did a really nice job of avoiding the rush and making big throws. He had multiple throws to Davis on the sideline that got them down the field and get them in scoring range.
Yeah, every big opportunity that was available, Josh Allen took and hit on it, and that's such a huge thing. And I like how you bring up his scrambling ability and his ability to buy time because it just seems like it's impossible to sack him. Like out of all the quarterbacks in the league, he might be the most difficult with his offensive line in front of him. That might be the most difficult team to get a sack on is Buffalo.
Yeah. No, I mean, it might honestly be because he's just so good at avoiding the pass rush. Russell Wilson was always in that conversation, but we saw that didn't really work out well for them this past weekend. So, yeah, I mean, I think Allen's just really good, and he made some really good plays. And we thought maybe this Colts defense could pull off a couple turnovers, and they weren't able to. I mean, they even had, I think it was. They had like a stretch where it was like an interception dropped in the end zone. They had a fumble that was nearly a fumble called down, and it was properly down. And then it was the one that he did fumble and Buffalo recovered. So like I said, they nearly did everything they needed to do. But you need some breaks to go your way to pull off an upset, and they just didn't have the breaks.
Exactly. Exactly. We should probably talk about the controversy in this game. There was a very bizarre fumble that didn't get overturned, where it was not ruled a fumble at the end. They stood with the call. I thought this was an insane, not turning over. Like, I don't get how this didn't get turned into a fumble. It didn't matter. It's at the end of the day, but like we should criticize them for it. That was not a. I thought the refs had a bad weekend, and this was maybe one of the worst calls.
Yeah, that was actually incredible play by Poyer to kind of sit there and wait for him to get back up. And it was such razor thin margins. Like, I'm okay with you could just say that it's indisputable evidence. I thought there was disputable, evidence that proved it to be overturned, but the margins were so razor thin. Like, you would need like a perfect, like, I don't even know if that camera exists to be able to get that perfectly right to tell if there was a part of the shin down or not. So it was so close, but yeah, I mean, I did think it was a fumble too, and a really good play by Poyer to wait for him to get back up and punch it too, and not just punch it, but he had to reach way down and punch that basically on the ground. I thought it was a really good play overall by Milano and Poyer.
Yeah, and it's one of those weird things where it felt like they said, "Oh, well, this is too close to overturn." But if it's super close, but you still have undisputable evidence that it was a fumble, then you should overturn it. Like, it doesn't matter how close it is; it's the evidence. The other thing that was, controversial decision: Frank Reich going for it. What were your thoughts on that? Going for it? I believe it was at the 4-yard line on a 4th down and goal. What did you think about that?
I'm okay with, I was okay with that. And then the second one was also the penalty that moved the 2-point conversion to the 1-yard line too, that I saw people were controversial about. Listen, if you're the underdog, you play to win the game. You don't, I know you got the stupid meme, you play to win the game, but look, you play to win these games, especially when you're the underdog. You have to be aggressive when you're going to Buffalo to play this team. You don't know what's going to happen in front of you. You can have this revisionist history of, well, if they just did this, this, and this, they would have tied the game and went to overtime or something like that. But you don't know what's going to happen going forward. You don't know that this game's going to be 27-24 at the end of the game. So, you make the right call, which is, you play aggressive and you play to win it rather than trying to play conservative, because that's not how you win football games when you're an underdog.
Yeah, and I also love this whole, like, if they kicked the field goal, the exact same game would have happened and it would have still been tied. Obviously, everything would have changed. And to the 2-point conversion, that's just clearly the correct decision. Like, basically any analytics football guy will tell you, yeah, 100% they should have gone for it. The 4th down, I'm not sure. I believe the numbers say you should. It maybe doesn't, but either way, I always find it so weird how we'll critique coaches for every little decision. How about Michael Pittman catch the ball? Like, why don't we just blame the players? Like, you got to make that catch.
Yeah, I mean, it looked like he had a really good beat on it. I don't know. It didn't seem like he stretched out far enough. So yeah, I'm with you. He's got to make that play, and I don't blame Frank Reich at all for this loss. I think that's crazy to say that. He was playing aggressive to try and win it, and I'm all for it.
Yeah, I think they lose by double digits without him, to be honest. But for the Bills, I feel like we spent a lot of time talking about the Colts. For the Bills, is this promising or is this discouraging going into, they're going to be playing Baltimore next week?
I still think this offense is really good. Obviously, I think they had some definite nerves. I know that I think both them and Cleveland at the end of the game and them at the beginning of the game had some seemingly like, I don't know if there's no way to quantify it, obviously, but I definitely think there is something to not winning a playoff game for multiple years and then trying to be the one to win that playoff game for your team. And it just seemed like they came out a little flat in this one and kind of bounced back later in the game. Like I said, from the end of the first half and going into the second half, they had 4 straight possessions when they scored. So I think that they're going to be fine offensively, but it's almost kind of like one of those things. It's like, well, your run defense still isn't very great. Your pass defense wasn't good in this one. You gave up multiple big plays in the passing game. Like, how's this going to work as you go forward when you have just multiple blatant holes in your game? And is Allen going to be able to bail this team out with his performance? Is he going to be able to bail his team out every time?
Yeah, and one of the weird stats was Jonathan Taylor only had 3.7 yards per carry. It felt like way better than that. I don't really know that was the part, but then Naheem Hines had a bunch of yards on only 6 carries. So as a whole, still not great. Should be interesting. Baltimore against Buffalo. We think that one should score 1,000,000 points, but then again, we thought that Ravens Titans was going to score 1,000,000 points, and that didn't quite work out.
No, that I do think it's going to be a great matchup. I think that's the great thing about these results is I love these matchups more than if Pittsburgh and Tennessee would have won. I just feel like there's more intrigue to these games and kind of the comparison and contrast with a lot of these teams. I want to see this Ravens run offense against the Bills passing attack. So it's going to be fun.
Yeah, it would have been good. Although Chiefs Ravens would have been good too, but who knows? Still on the table. Let's move on. Let's talk about those Baltimore Ravens playing the Tennessee Titans. They get their revenge. They stomp on the logo. Lamar Jackson. I spent a good amount of time on Twitter today. There was the tweets coming in after that first interception. He had thrown 3 passes, and he was already he had already lost his 3rd straight playoff game.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, I said this all the time. Like, until it's you see it a lot more in the NBA because these players are quantified by their championships, basically, which is ridiculous.
Right.
You know, it's the rules. You got to win to prove that you're not like a loser, basically, is how it is. You got to prove yourself. And he finally went out and proved himself and won a playoff game. And not only did he win a playoff game, something I criticized this team about before, they were down 10-0 in this game, and he went out and won a playoff game. I guess I'll start with this because I've criticized this guy for basically since last June. Hollywood Brown was very good in this one.
Yeah.
I thought he had a really good game. This is, he's had bigger game numbers, but his big games were like week 1 against the Jaguars and that kind of thing. Is where he puts up randomly big numbers and then goes quiet for a while. This was his best game of his career in the NFL. I just felt like constantly he was open, constantly he was the outlet that Lamar Jackson needed. Just, I thought a really good game from him and being able to just make things happen and make big plays for this team. This is exactly why they drafted him and what they were hoping to get out of him.
Yeah, exactly. And this is again, if the Ravens have like a legit passing threat, a passing option, they're just a different team. This is just a huge thing because what was interesting about it was we saw this slow start for Baltimore, but they were able to actually get some yards through the ground, which I wasn't sure if they were going to do. I thought they were going to have to get some passing yards. They ended up rushing for more yards than passing, and that was a huge deal in this one. And also, Lamar Jackson just had one of those like classic Lamar Jackson runs, but against a team that's pretty good at stopping the run. Their pass defense sucks, but they can, they matched up. Obviously, we know they match up well against Baltimore, and he had just one of those runs that was just like, how does anyone stand a chance against this guy?
Yeah, and I thought that there was a stretch where it was a terrific play. Like that was, he's had probably 2 or 3 of those in his career. And I think Harbaugh said that this was the best run he's ever seen him have, which, says a lot about his performance. And I mean, they were able to run it down their throat. The offensive line and defensive line, I thought, for Baltimore dominated this game. Although that was the difference, that both of those sides really dominated this game. The challenge was to limit Derrick Henry. Brandon Williams and Calais Campbell did an awesome job in that one. And they were able to not only, the question was, could Lamar make enough throws against this bad pass defense? They didn't need to make a whole ton of throws because the run offense, like you said, was awesome. All 3 of those guys had a really good performance and, really kickstarted this team when it looked bad, down 10-0, stuck to their game plan and made some plays.
Yeah, and on the flip side, to the other side of the ball, I thought that their secondary is kind of really underratedly good in this one because they sort of gave Baltimore the confidence to go all out and try and stop Derrick Henry. And they gave up a few big plays, but for the most part, they were able to shut down the Titans wide receiving core, which they weren't able to do the last time they played during this season. And Derrick Henry ends up with 40 yards on 18 carries, 2.2 yards per carry. He doesn't get shut down like that. That was an unbelievable performance by this defense.
Yeah, really good from the front 7, honestly, and limiting Henry. It wasn't Tannehill's best game. I thought this team really missed Corey Davis because it felt like it was kind of A.J. Brown or bust at times, and it would have been really nice to have Davis out there in this one for them, I feel like. I think the Ravens defense really came to play for this one. They talked about it kind of all after the game, how they felt kind of disrespected and hearing all the noise. And they really brought their best performance of one of their best performances of the season. This team really showed why people called this team a Super Bowl contender, with its ability to not only limit the run with those two big defensive tackles, but also having one of the top secondaries in the league. Even without Earl Thomas all year, it's been that good.
Yeah, and Deshaun Elliott had a one big play in this one, so he
Yeah.
stepped into that role well. And oh yeah, on the other side, you have the MVP last year.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I thought there was two plays that I thought really kind of kickstarted this team. It was right at the end of the first quarter. Lamar, I thought, made a really nice play to roll out, and it was like a 3rd and 7. And I think he hit Mark Andrews on the sideline, and it ended the first quarter there and got them the first down that they needed. And then they had another 3rd and 2. It was only a 4-yard run, but Gus Edwards was able to keep that drive alive too by getting the first down on that one. And I just felt like this offense started rolling. They convert those 2 third downs. They start to get down the field. They finally get to the opposing half. And I just felt, you feel really good about the Ravens at that point because they're starting to finally move the ball and get comfortable in the game.
Yeah, and also the Dobbins and Edwards both were able to do their thing. I thought J.K. Dobbins had one really big play that didn't count, but it was on that 4th down and 2 late in the game where he was able to make the grab while falling down and still fall forward to get the first down. Now, it got called back because of a penalty, but if he didn't get that, they wouldn't have accepted the penalty. So that was definitely a big play in that one as well. And it was just like you said, sort of the stars showing up, or the guys that we wanted to see showed up for Baltimore. And again, them taking on Buffalo, that's who knows how that game's going to go.
Yeah, no, that's going to be a great matchup. I think, like I said, I think it's strength on, I think it's almost kind of strength on strength almost, because it's, that Ravens secondary that we've talked about against Josh Allen and that group. That's going to be a fun game to watch. And on the other side, it's going to be interesting because we said who can keep up with Buffalo besides Kansas City. The Ravens might be able to run for 500 yards on them next week. So that's going to be fun to see the back and forth there. Another one I want to bring up, Mike Vrabel. I thought he had a really kind of bad second half of the season. And as I criticized Mike Tomlin for it too, I'm going to criticize him. 17-13 here with 10:06 left in the fourth quarter at the 40-yard line. 4th and 2, he punts the ball 25 yards. So the Ravens go down and get the field goal and also churn off, 5 minutes and 41 seconds off the clock. They kill half the fourth quarter remaining. And all of that was for 25 yards of space instead of going for 2 yards. I hate punting. Punting.
It made no sense. And going back to the 4th down converter bot thing on Twitter, that said that for in that decision, it was the 3rd worst decision to punt since the thing has been created. I don't know how long it's been created. Maybe it was created last week, but still, that's in. It's definitely not a good stat.
I need to follow this thing because I can just start screaming at it instead of everybody else listening to me. But I hate punting. Nobody should ever punt ever again in my book.
Okay, well, maybe not that dramatic, but all right. Any final thoughts in this game?
No, like I said, I'm looking forward to Chiefs-Ravens, though. Or Chiefs-Ravens. Ravens,
well,
Bills.
Is that a prediction?
Oh, God. I have to look more into it, but it's going to be a fun game.
Anything away for next week.
Yeah. I got to make them tune into the Wednesday show. I got to make sure to give them something that they look forward to.
That's right. You tied things up, by the way, in our picks.
Yeah, I had a big week. I think the only one I missed was Pittsburgh, right?
Yeah, but I put more points. You only put 2 points on that. I put 4 points on it. So, yeah. All right. Well, let's move on. No one cares. Let's go to how about those Tampa Bay Buccaneers winning a playoff game? Not necessarily the best game. I did find it funny how I was going on NFL Reddit, and when the Bills win, it's the Bills have finally won a playoff game. Oh my God. When the Browns win, it's this huge deal. And then the Bucs win, and everyone's like, hey, Tyler Heineke played good. No one's celebrating a Tom Brady playoff victory.
Yeah, you're gonna learn that pretty quickly. Nobody wants you to win this year.
Yeah, I know. It's weird being the villain.
I'm gonna get to Heineke in a second. Okay. We'll give credit to the Bucs first. I know that they were the huge favorites in this one. They were playing a team under 500, but guess what? The 2 teams that were under 500 in the playoffs before the season were 2-0 in the first round. The Seahawks and the 7-8-1 Panthers both won their playoff games in the first round. So I know it's an under 500 team and you're supposed to win it, but that's not always necessarily true because it's happened in the past twice. Brady was awesome. I thought Brady was really good in this one. This was a vintage Brady performance, and for all this talk about this defensive line being able to get after him, the Bucs offensive line did a really good job. I thought he did an excellent job of not only reading the defense, but looking off the defense. That Brown touchdown was just, quintessential Brady for looking off the safety and then going back to Brown and working back across the field. He had another one to the Evans where he did the same thing, where he was looking left, rolled out left even, and went back to Evans to the right. They got him down to like the 4-yard line. Both of those plays are just, that's Tom Brady football in the nutshell. That's GOAT shit right there. Just a great performance from him. I know it's not the best team in the world, but he looked great.
Yeah, I mean Brady. The entire offense was awesome. Brady was awesome. We don't win this game without Tom Brady. He was incredible. This is easily the best playoff performance from a Buccaneers quarterback ever. Not saying much, edges out. I don't know, Brad Johnson in some of these games. He was absolutely outstanding, and so many. Leonard Fournette had a good day in this one. Mike Evans, who, despite being hobbled, ends up with 119 receiving yards, which is just absurd. Apparently, when he gets hurt, he just seemingly gets stronger. I don't know how that worked. Chris Godwin dropped like 7 passes, but other than that, I thought that this and yeah, I mean Donovan Smith, who has been criticized heavily by Buccaneers fans, I think unfairly, completely shut down Chase Young in this one.
Yeah, it wasn't even just him, because there was points where Rob Gronkowski was isolated on Chase Young and was able to block him too. It was just a great job from the offensive line overall, and Gronk, who just proves how good he is at blocking time and time again. But yeah, I thought they did a really good job overall, and yeah, Smith I thought really came to play. I thought all of them came to play. They got a couple sacks, but at the same time, they were just able to recover. And I just love that, I think it was 65-45 pass run in this one. And I just think that's pretty much what this team needs to play at. I know the math is wrong there, and I really just messed that up. I think they threw a lot more than they ran, is what I was basically trying to say. And they need to do that more.
Are you trying to say like 65% to 35%?
I thought it was something roughly like that.
Okay.
I could be wrong.
That looks about right. It looks like there was about a little under 30 carries, and the Buccaneers threw it 40 times. So around there. But yeah, I agree. We should talk about Taylor Heinicke, who all of a sudden, as a Buccaneers fan, there was a moment when everyone was like, "Oh, okay, some unknown backup quarterback's going to play Tampa Bay. I guess that means Tampa Bay is going to win." It's like, you have not followed the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. This is our kryptonite. Case Keenum has owned us being a backup for like 6 different teams. Like, this is what we do, is lose to backup quarterbacks. But he did light us up, but luckily we decided to sign Tom Brady, who was decent.
Yeah, decent. Yeah, I mean, he made some great plays. He did a lot of things really well, and I think this is where you still say the win looked great, but these corners are god awful sometimes. It just seems like, man, like they just make some bad decisions, and it seems like there's just so many times where there's corners 5 yards off of receivers for seemingly no reason. I thought Heinicke did a really good job, and I'm not going to be one of those guys that have gone on and said, "Oh, someone's going to give this guy one of the 32 starting quarterback jobs in the NFL after like 65 passes for his career." But he's going to earn himself an opportunity to compete in camp. He's definitely going to have that. And, it was a really good performance from him. It was a really gutsy performance from him. And he did a lot of things really well. But yeah, I thought Tampa really needs to step that up going into next week.
Yeah, it was tough. And people have talked about maybe to some degree it was because they weren't ready for a mobile quarterback like Heinicke. They were prepared for Alex Smith. But either way, regardless, like, there were still plenty of mistakes in that. I really do think that this defense needed Vita Vea. He's the staple, the rock of this defense, and he makes so many things go. And without him, it's not as good. But we'll see. I didn't think the Saints offense looked great either. So that's obviously not been a great matchup for us. But at the end of the day, like, I was talking to my dad about it, who's, a big Buccaneers fan as well. And we're kind of just like, if we get blown out 100-0 next week, we're good. Like, we've got the streak off. Obviously we want to win, but this is all, we've met our expectations. Now it's house money.
Yeah. I mean, that's going to be a big game against the Saints. I'm curious to see, you know, we've been curious to see this matchup all season, basically, and it hasn't really panned out the way that we were kind of thinking. Can they
Right.
finally figure some of this stuff out? This is kind of, this is the thorn in your side for almost 2 decades now. Can you finally, it's almost like Cleveland having to get over Big Brother Pittsburgh. Can little brother Tampa get over Big Brother New
Hold
Orleans in the
on.
past
What are you?
decade?
What? Wait a second. What? Because they've won the division 3 years in a row.
I mean, they've kind of owned that division for a while now.
Yeah, they've been okay. I mean, it's nowhere near. We have the same amount of Super Bowls in the past 20 years. You can't say that they've owned it for the past 2 decades.
I would say from 2009 on, I'll say it then.
Well, but everyone's owned us since that point. Like, actually, weirdly, I know too much about Tampa Bay. We used to always split the series, despite New Orleans being way better than us. Like when New Orleans won this, we won 3 games. When New Orleans went 13-3 and won the Super Bowl, we beat the Saints that year. Like, it's really been Bruce. Here's what I will say: Bruce Arians is Sean Payton's little brother. He's yet to beat him. He's 0-5 since coming over to Tampa Bay. So that's definitely something.
Okay, so where's your confidence level at for this next week?
Like 15%. I don't know. I'm not very confident. I mean, I'm hopeful, and I'm definitely going to find a way to talk myself into it, but it is still a bad matchup. We're going to have to score 1,000,000 points, which is possible the way this offense is going. And I do think that, our game plan last time, we're going to be better. We're not going to lose 38-3 this time. I don't think. I hope not. But I do think we could give up 38.
Yeah, but I mean, with the way the offense is playing, the other thing about this offense too is that they might have left like 20 points on the board in this game too, because they had, they were terrible in the red zone. It seemed like that they just had, there were some things. This team should not be bad in the red zone ever with Mike Evans, Cameron Brate, and Rob Gronkowski. I just got to say that real quick. This team should be awesome in the red zone all the time. And it seemed like they could have scored like 20 more points based on just missing some big throws there at the end or, just not converting in the red zone. Basically, it's interesting. I think this offense has played really well the last few weeks. I think, they could give up 38, but I think they could finally start to score some points on this New Orleans team.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. We'll obviously get more into it on Wednesday. Let's talk about Washington a bit more. So I think this is definitely a good season. They don't know who their quarterback is, but I find it interesting. All these guys have been thrown around for Coach of the Year. I don't think this guy should win it, but he's someone who I'm surprised no one really talked about. What about Ron Rivera? I mean, Joe Judge got consideration. Like Ron Rivera did exactly the same thing, except actually won the division.
Yeah. I mean, not many coaches, survive a league or a team organization-wide sexual assault or sexual harassment scandal, cancer, COVID, and all that, and put together a division-winning season. So I thought it was an incredible year from him and being able to pretty much overcome everything to get this team to 7-9. So I like where they're going. I think they need a few more pieces. And the obvious one is quarterback, who's going to be under center. But, I don't think this team's that far off from being really competitive.
Mm-hmm. One last thing I'll say. I did not see one thing I noticed about having Tom Brady on your team. People are going to complain that you get all the calls, which to some degree is fair. I do think that Tom Brady gets calls. But as I've said, every team had an opportunity to sign Tom Brady. We chose to do it. We get some of those calls. And secondly, we had a fumble that totally should have been a fumble that wasn't called for it. So I don't know. But people are weird when it comes to playoffs.
Yeah. I'm immune to it at this point. I get it. I'm with you.
I've gained a lot of respect for Patriots fans having Tom Brady on my team. That's what I'll say.
Yeah. There's this ongoing thing for years that Patriots and Packers get every call, and it's just like it's not true. It's not true. You don't have to worry about it.
Little bit.
It's not true.
It's like 52%. I think superstars do get more calls. Like I don't deny that.
Okay, yeah, that's fair, but at the same time, like, so what is Brady getting a call for that? So is it one roughing the passer penalty a season? Basically, is the difference?
Right, it's nothing major. It's like 51% to 49%. That's all I think.
So that's fair. Okay.
Yeah.
We can move on.
Yes, let's move on. Let's talk. So we got 2 games left. Let's go Rams Seahawks. This was the lowest scoring 50-point game you will ever see.
Yeah, I mean, this game was ugly at points, and Uh, we talked about this one a little bit. I thought there was some upset potential. I got it right. I said that I was picking Seahawks originally, and I just went the other way because I needed to make up some ground in the picks.
Right.
Um, but part of my argument was that this is the best defense in football. There's a chance that this
Mhm.
team kind of just instills its will no matter who the quarterback is. And hey, guess what? This is the best defense in football. It didn't really matter who the quarterback was for their team. They made some plays on that side of the ball. Jalen Ramsey at points was awesome. I know DK Metcalf's stats. He ended up getting his, but I thought Jalen Ramsey did a really good job again in this one. And, even at points, when Aaron Donald was out at times, this Rams defensive line was awesome, and they shut down the Seahawks. They shut them down.
Yeah, I almost feel like this Rams defensive line is underrated at this point because everyone always talks about Aaron Donald for good reason. He had a pair of sacks in this one. He was dominant when he was out there, but they can get pressure without him as well. And there was a moment when Donald was on the bench, just taking a breather, and it almost felt like when like LeBron James is on the bench, where it's like, okay, now you got to score.
Yeah. No, it really was. It's like you got to get things going, and they still weren't able to because Leonard Floyd is really good and I think really underrated too as far as edge rushers go. Um, there's just a lot of good edge rushers, so it's tough to give him that much credit. But at the same time, he is very good, and he made a lot of big plays in this one. So I don't understand what's going on with the Seahawks team. I don't understand what happened. I mean, you probably looked more into it than I did. So is this a Brian Schottenheimer thing? Is this a Russell Wilson just regressing completely thing? Is it DK Metcalf hitting some sort of wall thing? What is this?
I think to some degree, I mean, it's weird because I feel like DK Metcalf had a bad game and he still had 96 yards and 2 touchdowns. So there is that. I think that the reality is teams just started playing the Seahawks with two safeties deep and said, okay, just, drive. Don't take these big shots. You're going to have to drive to beat us. And I just don't know if that's Russell Wilson's specialty. I think that Russell Wilson is obviously an incredible quarterback, but he's clearly what makes him so good is the deep ball. And I just don't know how special it is, especially with Metcalf and Lockett, two good deep ball receivers. Once they realized, hey, let's just sort of make them, let's die slowly. Well, it turns out to not die at all. And with a team like LA, who likes to play cover two and cores a bunch, it's just a bad matchup for them.
Yeah. Yeah, they were able to just kind of instill their will in this one. And that pick six was just an awful throw too. Just a really rough game.
I thought that was more of just a good play by Darius Williams.
I mean, it was, but at the same time, it looked blown up before he even released the balls at time. I felt like.
I think that's kind of a nitpick, to be honest. I think that it's a screen pass. You're supposed to get it off quickly. I think you got to make your block in front. But Darius Williams just made a great play. Sometimes, it's fair to criticize him to some degree, but I just think that it's a slight mistake that turns into a pick six.
Yeah. And then the other side, too, is, we talked about even when the Seahawks defense was bad, the run defense was really good and made big plays. The run defense was not good in this one.
Right.
Cam Akers had a huge bounce back performance, 131 yards and a touchdown. That was a great game from him, coming back healthy. I was really impressed with that. And, for all the criticism of Goff, even with the hurt thumb, I thought, the stats aren't going to blow you away, but I thought he made some really nice throws at the end of the game.
Yeah, and I mean, he missed some throws too, but he did better. He had lower than a 50% completion percentage, but he did, given the circumstances, he was definitely, I think, a massive upgrade from Wolford. I don't really know what McVay was thinking putting Wolford in, to be honest. And if we're being fair, while I did predict the Seahawks to win, I said if Jared Goff played, I would have had the Rams to win. So kind of an asterisk next. Still counts as a loss, but little asterisk.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I got the win. That's all that matters.
Yeah, I know. You're a scoreboard guy. Don't care about any of the minor things.
Yeah, pretty much. Look, I mean, yeah, it's going to be interesting because this is another team, like kind of what I mentioned with Cleveland, is what's going to be the health of this team going forward because the Cooper Kupp injury did not look good. And we saw what this team looked like week 17 without Cooper Kupp. I thought he was really important in this game. I know he only had 4 catches, but I thought it was 4 big catches. And he does a great job blocking. I think he's really just a phenomenal receiver. And it's going to be tough if they miss him. And the Aaron Donald thing, too, I'm guessing he's going to play. But, what's going to be the health of this team going forward, I think is a big question.
Yeah, and they're going up to Lambeau, so they got to find a way to. That should be an awesome matchup. Aaron Rodgers going up against this defense. It'll be interesting to see what they do there. And we talked about it in the AFC. Well, in the NFC, same thing. I mean, the way these games broke down, Bucs Saints 3 and Rams Packers. I mean, that's pretty. I mean, who knows if the Bucs will be able? There's a chance the Bucs get blown out for a third time, but for all we know, this could absolutely be two great games. It's on paper, it should be two great games.
It should be. I think that. I mean, I think it should be four, maybe three good games. I don't know how I feel about that Cleveland one. We'll see. But at the same time, I think there's going to be some good games in the next round and for the rest of the season. So it's going to be interesting. I do think there's, I'm curious to see the zone defense against Aaron Rodgers and how he tries to pick it apart. Because if he has time to throw against that, if the Packers offensive line can perform at their best, even without Bakhtiari, if he has time to throw, I think he's going to be able to deal on this zone a little bit.
Yeah, that's a very interesting one. Let's talk about Seattle a bit more. People were saying that Pete Carroll should be fired. This is one of the weirdest 12-4 seasons ever. Doesn't it feel like they went 9-7? Like the fact that this team went 12, this team won more games than the Browns. Like it's a very this team won as many games as Kansas City did last year. Don't they just feel like two completely different ballparks?
Yeah, completely. I mean, I don't know. It's a very weird thing. Like, I'm not sure. I don't know. Like, this offense looked unbeatable to begin the season. And then it all of a sudden is like, it's struggling to get 20 points in this one. And it had other games where it was struggling to get points. And it wasn't even just the 4 losses. It was losses to the Jets. It was losses to the just bad teams, and did they lose to the Jets? They lost to somebody.
No, they beat the Jets 40-3.
Oh, sorry. They lost to somebody really bad.
The Rams lost to the Jets. I'll look it up.
It was the Giants. I'm sorry. The other New York team.
There you go.
Yeah, it was, scoring 12 points against the Giants. And there was just times where this team was never convincing in the second half of the season, besides when they played the Jets.
Yeah, I mean that's I think it's a fair thing, and even going back to sort of the beginning of the season when they were had this high flying offense, they only beat Minnesota by a point. They Miami hung around against them, Dallas hung around against them, New England nearly beat them. Like they just had some of these weird, not great games, and it's not great. I still think it'd be insane to fire Pete Carroll after the turnaround this defense had this season. I thought that this season is, if anything, a good showing by the defense. You could argue maybe get a better offensive coordinator or whatever, but I think Pete Carroll is really good. I know we have slightly different opinions on him. I think he's better than you do, but I think it'd be insane to get rid of him now.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they should get rid of him right now. I think, I like that at the beginning of the season, he was willing to, let the offense do a little more and have a little more freedom. So that was a good thing. And then, teams kind of just caught up to it and they didn't adjust. But overall, yeah, I mean, I think he's, I guess the question would be the same question I asked when I, firing coaches is if you're going to fire your coach, who are you getting that's better? Who's going to come in there and be better? Are they going to try and get Chris Peterson out of retirement, out of Washington? And is that a better move right now than Pete Carroll and how the continuity he has with that team? I don't really think so. So I don't know if there's anybody really better on the table right now for Seattle.
Adam Gase is available.
That's true. I saw somebody report today that if the Eagles fired Doug Peterson, the Jets are really interested in him. And I just chuckled.
That would be such a Jets move, just to do exactly what they did last time. I guess can't get worse. But yeah, any final thoughts on this one?
Yeah, so I was looking at it actually real quick. I believe the Seahawks, if I'm looking at this correctly, beat 2 playoff teams. And in those 2 playoff teams, it was 2 of the last 3 weeks of the season, beating the Rams 20-9 and Washington 20-15. So I don't know how to feel about this team. It was a very weird season, I feel like, from them.
Yeah, but I always feel like those things can be a bit missed. Like, I mean, what playoff teams did they lose to? They lost to Seattle or Buffalo. And they just didn't have that many playoff teams on their schedule this year.
That's fair. Yeah, I mean, I get it. So, I mean, just a weird season from Seattle still.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk about the final game, the Nickelodeon Bowl. Kyle, which broadcast did you watch? Did you watch this on Nickelodeon or on the normal boring broadcast?
I was out for a little bit of it and watching it on the normal broadcast and caught some of the Nickelodeon stuff. So I was going back and forth a little bit.
Okay.
It was interesting. It was a thing. That was an event.
It's one of those things that I want that to happen once a year, preferably not a playoff game. I think just have that be like maybe one of the London games. Have that be on Nickelodeon.
Listen, the only unfortunate thing is that they made these kids watch the Bears. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
very unfair. Uh-huh.
just a weird thing. I was a little disappointed as far as my Nickelodeon nostalgia that we didn't get a lot of Avatar references in the Nickelodeon Bowl because that's my show. But it's whatever. It's fine. I'm not hurt.
Yeah, I think I watched like the first season, and then for some reason I didn't watch anymore. I liked it.
All-time great Nickelodeon cartoon. It's on Netflix. I'm gonna plug it real quick. Avatar: The Last Airbender. Go watch.
Okay, I'm sure they'll be very appreciated. I'm sure they'll appreciate you plugging that on this podcast. Yeah, I still want to talk about the Nickelodeon part. There, I didn't realize that I'm just watching the game. And it's like the field goal post, and all of a sudden SpongeBob's face just comes out. It's just the most hilarious thing. There was a moment when they compared Taysom Hill and Drew Brees to SpongeBob and Patrick, and they had like a graphic for it and everything. It wasn't just like a comparison. Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, and the explanation of false start too, that was awesome. Like just so many things that went into this that were so goofy. It was actually pretty enjoyable, and I think you know, it's a fun way to do this. The next thing I want to see is like the C-SPAN version of the NFL game where they're debating how like climate change affects kick accuracy or something like that.
Yes.
So get NFL on C-SPAN. That's my next move.
Okay, that's good. What are some other things we could do here? I'm trying to think. Is there any other good network shows or something we could do? Maybe like an HBO thing with just like nudity on the sideline or something.
Yeah, I'd be okay with that. And can we do a like I guess what would be the other one? Can we do like History Channel and have like George Washington coaching one side and
Yeah.
King George coaching the other side?
Right, right. You give a bunch of historical broadcasters giving historical references to about everything. I like that. That's a good one. You get like sort of like a reality TV version where they then like do confessionals and on the sidelines during the games. You get like
Yes.
players get voted out midway through.
Yeah, an MTV version of that or something would be awesome.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, that's about all I got. I
All
mean,
right. Should we maybe
I
talk
am
about
down
the
for
game
the
now for a
Playboy
second?
Channel one. Let's do that
Yeah.
one.
Okay. All right. Well, calm down, Kyle. Let's talk about the game. We probably should do that. No, we just spent about 5 minutes on just complete nonsense.
Do we have to talk
So
about this? No.
we do have to. We have to. I mean, it was. I don't know. I thought that the Saints offense kind of had a weird game plan. They kept trying to do these small things, and their zone busters were working, and they were doing it like once every drive, and it's just like just do that. You're fine. The Bears defense did show up, and obviously the Saints defense showed up. I thought this was a very frustrating game to watch. I think this is one of the worst competitive games. It was competitive until the fourth quarter or late in the third quarter. But it was just it was a chore to watch. It felt like doing work watching this game.
Yeah, I mean, look, I honestly felt like once Wims dropped that touchdown pass, that was probably the most creative play Matt Nagy has ever come up with in his life.
Uh,
Once Wims dropped that touchdown pass, I was like, yeah, Bears aren't winning this. Like, I never felt like concerned for the Saints losing this game. Even when the score was close, I was like, I don't see a situation where the Bears are winning this game right now.
yeah,
I don't know. Like, I just don't. Yeah, I mean, I didn't see it happening. This feels like a fitting end to the Trubisky Nagy combination, right?
yeah. I think this is kind of the obviously best case scenario would have been a win for Chicago, but this is the next best case scenario. Just them completely sucking, and also all time stat padding touchdown at the end there.
Yeah, and then wasn't the 2-point conversion a huge play too? Because I think some lines had this 11.5. So if they just went for the extra point, it would have covered.
Oh, I didn't realize that. Line must have changed. Yeah, that's a that's a tough one. If only there was a second left when it happened.
Yeah, I know. That's funny. But yeah, just a weird thing, and yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I didn't have a lot of takeaways from this one because even with Washington in the playoffs, I felt like the Bears were easily the worst team in the postseason.
Hmm.
And I like that the Saints defense showed up again and looked really good, but I'm also taking it with a grain of salt against the Bears.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Bears weren't horrible in terms of like their defense did play well. I mean, they did everything they could to keep their team in it. The offense was just a complete mess, and that's kind of why this team is so frustrating. It feels like if they could just get a uh, decent offense, they could be fine. Also, Lil Jordan Humphrey got a catch in this one, and when the announcer said it, I'm like, that's such a Nickelodeon like thing to say. Like he's that's a Nickelodeon name, Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah. I mean, this game was just catered to the kids, man. Just
Hmm.
completely. Yeah, I mean, so the Bears overall had 239 yards of offense, and I believe like 96 of that was like in the last 6 minutes of the game because they
Hmm.
had like 150 yards of offense total for a very long stretch of this game. And yeah, I mean, they have a lot of questions, but the Saints have to feel good. I thought, while the numbers don't blow you away, I thought Breeze actually played pretty well in this one, going against a really good defense, like you said, because the Bears did step up and play a lot better. I that touchdown pass to Latavius Murray made no sense, and I didn't see it. I didn't see how that worked, but it worked. It
Hmm.
was a nice play, so I'll give him credit for that.
Yeah, I know. Latavius Murray is like on the ground, then like 1 second later he has it, and yeah, that was weird. And then it seemed like he juked someone out without making a move. Very very rare to do that.
Yeah, but that's a very Latavius Murray thing to happen. He's not
Hmm.
necessarily the most explosive guy, but he makes it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, and second game in a row though with the Bears. Even as the defense played, they struggle with Kamara again. That's a bad matchup for them. I feel like.
Yeah, kind of a bad matchup for everyone.
Well, that's true. Kamara
Hmm.
is really good. So
And this Saints offensive line's really good too. And Taysom Hill did have a fumble, but yeah, Saints are good. We know that.
again,
I know, unbelievable.
this time he was trying to throw and he fumbled.
Yeah, you can't stop it. But the Saints are really good. They're already favorites in Tampa Bay. We'll see what they do. Do you have any final thoughts on this one?
I think we just about covered this. I think the Saints look really good, but we'll see what happens with bigger competition next week.
Yeah, should be interesting. Also, Cordero Patterson dropping an F-bomb on Nickelodeon. Fantastic.
Yeah, I actually missed this during the broadcast and then went back and heard it. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, that was good. All right, let's move on. We're gonna talk. So that's all the games. I want to talk about the Deshaun Watson trade rumors because Kyle Stradamus predicted, I believe on last show, about the Miami could trade Tua and some draft picks for the Texans. I'm like, the Texans won't do that. But my biggest flaw as an analyst is sometimes I forget that some teams are really stupid and they might just do this.
Well, so I guess first of all, I said that they were going to trade back Houston their picks.
Hmm.
So I want to start with I guess the stupid, speaking of stupid franchises, the Houston Texans. So
Hmm.
first of all, this starts obviously with the Bill O'Brien era, um, then continues into this thing where Cal McNair essentially hires a search firm and gets recommendations from Deshaun Watson, and none of those recommendations from Deshaun Watson or this multi-$100,000 search firm involve Nick Cassero, and he hires Nick Cassero.
Uh-huh.
Then Deshaun Watson's clamoring for Eric Bieniemy and everything that he's done with this Mahomes offense, and apparently none of the interviews involve Eric Bieniemy.
Hmm.
And you know, I'm not going to tell him how to run his team. He's obviously very rich and can do what he wants. Uh, but like, if I'm going to invest, you know, 9 figures into someone, I'm probably going to make sure I do what they want every now and then. I'm not going to give them the keys to the city, but I'm also not going to kick them to the curb anytime they have a request. Just seems like a bold strategy there from Cal McNair, and we'll see how it works out from him.
Yeah, it's completely bizarre. I mean, Watson's the only thing good about your team right now. And how do you piss off the one guy? He's the one guy that you let him do whatever. You want to park in the handicap spot, do it, Deshaun. Whatever makes you happy.
Yeah, I mean, I think if they don't re-sign Will Fuller, I feel like that's just about it. Because if they get rid of another one of his weapons, like what's the argument for him wanting to stay at this point?
Well, he's under contract.
Well, what's going to happen is he's just going to hold out. That's what it sounds like. He could just hold out during training camp. What are they going to do?
Yeah, how does it work again? Because I know they changed it. Is it he holds out for one season and then he becomes a free agent?
Did they change it that way? I don't know.
I
I
think
mean,
they might have changed it, something like that.
but even if he does hold out, he I just don't see it happening. I think that they'd trade him. Especially if you're gonna do this to him. I think it might honestly be it's not in their best interest because he's still only 25. But if you're looking to blow up your franchise, because I still feel like the Texans, even with Watson, I feel like they're years away from competing because this team has nobody on defense. They need, 10 new players and JJ Watt 10 years younger essentially on defense. And they're years away from competing because they don't have any of those pieces. I don't know what's going to happen with this. And maybe you do get assets and just see what you can do.
I don't know. I mean, I think that the price would just be so. It would have to be Miami would have to give up like Tua, and I would say like this full draft and next year's full draft. It'd have to be like some incredible package because a franchise quarterback is, and if I'm Miami, I still do that. Like I think that that's like how valuable Deshaun Watson would be to that team.
Well, the thing is I don't think the Texans would ever get actual maximum value for Watson
Mm-hmm.
because it's very hard to quantify what exactly is maximum value for one of the top four quarterbacks in the NFL. Because right now, if I were to do a rankings of top quarterbacks, it's Mahomes, Rodgers, Allen, Watson. You could probably, change the order whatever you want between Watson and Allen, but they're the top four.
I think I'd throw Lamar Jackson.
Lamar Jackson's in there too. So, okay, he's one of the top five quarterbacks in the NFL. How do you quantify the value for one of the top five quarterbacks, one of the top five players at the most important position in football? I don't know. I don't know how this works out. I don't know what happens here.
Yeah, it's really difficult, but I just feel like it's hard for me to imagine a scenario where they trade Deshaun Watson and we look back on it in like 10 years and think, what a great move for the Texans. What a good job.
Yeah, I mean, unless you can get like 10 picks out of this, I don't see it either. I guess so. Instead of like speculating on what's going on in Houston, I guess let's do the fun side. Where would you like to see Deshaun Watson? If you had to pick 3 teams you would like to go for Watson in realistic scenarios. So obviously, he's not going to a team with either a quarterback or no cap space. So sorry, Atlanta fans, he's not going to you because you have no cap space. And sorry, Kansas City fans, he's not going to you either. So where would you like 3 realistic and fun scenarios for Deshaun Watson?
Okay, I've got. I'm thinking I'm not going to take biases into it, so I'll go for first one. I'm not sure exactly about Teddy Bridgewater's contract, so I'm not sure about the cap space. What about Carolina?
That'd be a good one. That would be an unreal division of quarterbacks. That'd be really fun to see.
Yeah.
I think that there is kind of an out with Teddy Bridgewater's contract. I'm not entirely sure, but that would be really fun to see. And yeah, that'd be an insane division.
Right. Okay. I have Washington. I think that would make sense.
That feels like the obvious one. I do agree with that one. Obviously, besides Miami, because that's what was mentioned. But I do feel like that's another good one because it makes a lot of sense.
I have one more. The team that passed on him. How about the Chicago Bears? The
Yeah.
Photoshops have already been made. You don't have to make more new ones.
Yeah, that's true. No, that would make a lot of sense. And, the Bears thought they figured it out with Jay Cutler. And, maybe this is finally the guy they trade for and it works out for them.
They did figure it out with Jay Cutler.
That's
NFC Championship appearance, Jay Cutler.
What is this the Colts with the AFC finalist banner?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
So another one I have, because I mentioned them with a couple other teams, is and it also makes a really fun division too, is Denver. So what if we have next 10 years AFC West of Mahomes, Watson, Herbert, and
Carr.
Maybe Derek Carr? Yeah.
Why is it always maybe with Derek Carr?
I'm just kidding. Okay. So next 10 years of the AFC West with Mahomes, Watson, Herbert, and Carr. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Carr being the worst quarterback in that division, which, I mean, I think right now I'd maybe take him over Herbert, but for the future, no doubt Herbert's going to be better. Carr being the 4th best quarterback in the division is unfair.
Yeah, that would just be AFC West games would be must watch like almost every week.
Right. Remember when we thought that was going to be the case, and then only the Chiefs finished above 500?
Yeah, that's true. I mean, there was a lot of injuries there, and also injuries, and I'm already forgetting his name, the Fire defensive coordinator.
Paul Gunther.
Yeah, Paul Gunther was involved too, so that also hurts the chances of going over 500.
Right. What about like? Okay, I'm just thinking now. What about this is an interdivisional trade, so I don't know if this will work. We're just, well, end of the show. Who cares at this point? What about the Texans and Jaguars first overall pick for Deshaun Watson?
So Trevor Lawrence for Deshaun Watson.
Yeah.
Okay, that'd be interesting. I
What would you do if you're the Jaguars? Do you trade it or do you keep the pick?
and I'm not giving up anything else. I'm just giving
Just
up that one
one for
pick.
one. Mm-hmm.
I'd do it. I would do it.
I do too. Yeah, I think
Because
that's
while I think Lawrence is maybe a 90% lock, I think Watson's 100% lock to be good. So,
yeah.
and you actually have a decent offensive line in front of him and a lot of pieces. That'd be an awesome offense. And they would just pretty much, draft defense for the next, 5 drafts. And that's a really good team.
Yeah, I agree. All right. So I think that's it for this. Kyle, anything you have to plug? Any final thoughts on this week?
Follow our Twitter account. I was on it all day, just talking about these games all weekend, really, while I was, winning money in Las Vegas. I was also tweeting from at on the sideline JK, which is always entertaining. So make sure to follow us there at on the sideline JK, and good stuff there. And we'll be tweeting all playoffs and giving you the content you deserve.
Yes. Also, you keep saying we. It's you. You sometimes get a little edgy on, not edgy like in a bad way, but like you'll take a couple shots here and there. I don't want to be associated.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it is me talking shit, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, exactly. Follow me on Twitter too, at Jackson Kruger, and follow Kyle. What by Kyle Grondin?
At by Kyle Grondin. Yeah, that's me.
All right. Well, again, thanks to everyone for staying up with us late on the East Coast. We will be back Wednesday at 9:00 previewing the divisional rounds. Kyle, last week where there will be games on multiple days of the week. Last week where it'll be more than 2 games. Period.
Looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to it, but I'm also sad because that means football season's almost over, and I got to think of what I'm going to do for those next 6 months. Besides that, but looking forward to the playoffs and getting to the Super Bowl championship. It almost seemed inconceivable back in August with COVID going on.
Yes, Luke Brown, big Kyle stan. Kyle provides us with that quality content. You got
Team Kyle, baby, we're rising. Team Kyle is edging out Team Jackson here in the rankings. We're coming back in the pick'em rankings, and we're coming back with the fans.
Yeah, tied and pick'em. That'll be interesting to see how things finish out. Okay, thanks to everyone for watching. We appreciate it. Until next time, have a good one.
Peace.